Lelouch v. Britannia was born to Emperor Charles Z. Britannia and Marianne v. Britannia as the 14th in line to the imperial throne. He and his younger sister Nonnally would live as royalty until at the age of 8, his mother would be assassinated by his uncle V2, and his father would alter his memories to believe that he had been present at this event, and that it was the work of terrorists. Enraged by his mother's death and by the crippling of his sister, Lelouch would confront his father and would give up his claim to the throne in anger. As a result, he and Nonnally would be exiled to the recently conquered nation of Japan, and it is there that he would meet Suzaku Kudarugi, and the two would form a close friendship. Over the years, he and Nonnally would grow up taking the last name Lamperouge and posing as a normal person, and would stay in hiding until at the age of 17, while skipping class one day, he'd accidentally find his way into... Alright, enough of that boring bullshit. Intoxicated Rain here is back in the house. Alright, so after Lulu stumbled into a terrorist plot, he'd hide like a pussy until Suzaku, who had betrayed his country and joined the Britannian military, spin kick and then rescue him, until the two would see a release of a woman who would ruin both of their lives. Starting with Suzaku's superior shooting him for knowing too much, and then they would do the same to him. But the girl would take the bullet for him and would give him a power to control motherfuckers, and the first thing he does with this is have a bunch of people kill themselves in front of him because no one fucks with Lelouch. He then finds the terrorists again, and okay, hear me out. You ever see EA, Disney, or Konami doing some really bad things and you think to yourself, wow, even I could do better than that? Yeah, well, the difference between your lazy ass and Lelouch is that he actually did this, and within a year and several atrocities, Lelouch would have his home country on the ropes until his half-sister, who he used to kind of have a thing for, would come up with a peaceful solution on the spot, making Lelouch have to simp and give up his plans. But at literally the perfect moment, he'd lose control of his power and order her to commit genocide. Making the best of a bad situation, Lulu would cap his sister, blaming everything on her. He'd then abandon an active war zone with all of his forces when C2... Oh, right, she's the chick that gave him his powers and is also immortal. Told him that Nonnally would have been kidnapped and would run to Suzaku, and would try to get his old friend to help, but unfortunately Suzaku was kinda dating his sister, the other one. And by killing her, Lelouch had cock-blocked his friend hard, and they would try to shoot each other. But by the power of plot armor, they would both miss, but Lelouch, being the skinny little twink he was, would be knocked the fuck out by him and would be taken directly to his daddy, who would erase and replace his memories. After this, Nonnally would be replaced by some dipshit named Rollo, who could use Zawarodol, but C2 and the groupie named Colin would rescue him and he'd regain his powers, even tricking Rollo into joining him because Rollo is easier to manipulate than a light switch. Lelouch would then once again bring Britannia to its knees twice in a fucking row, and this time would even get the rest of the world to join him as allies. However, his older brother Schneisel would reveal his secret identity. Yeah, he had one of those, by the way. And he would almost be gunned down by his own team, but Rollo would redeem himself by rescuing Lelouch and then dying. Lulu would then track down his dad and would trap him in another world, but his mom, C2, and Suzaku would all join in, and Lulu would lose his shit using his Geass to have God kill his parents. About a month later, Lulu would take the empty throne for himself, and shortly after would take over the world as its sole ruler. However, no one liked this idea, but that was actually Lelouch's plan, and now that everyone in the world had a hate boner for him, he'd commit suicide by Suzaku, the world, and giving his sister psychological issues that she'd probably never gonna recover from. Light Yagami was born to Soichiro Yagami and someone not important to the plot. All throughout his childhood, Light was a fucking nerd, being at the top of his class and even playing tennis. At the age of 17, like all incels at his age, Light thought the world would be a much better place if certain unmentionables were gone from the world for good. Thankfully for Light, a god of death named Ryuk would get bored one day and dropped a notebook that kills people nearby, and Light was the lucky schmuck to find it, and like any normal person would immediately go on a worldwide killing spree. People obviously noticed that heart attacks received a major boost in popularity, and some dude named L would decide to take him down, narrowing down the list of suspects to Light himself and introducing himself directly because L is fucking insane. The two would then try to get the other to fuck up, but Light would get a stalker with a death note throwing a wrench in both of their plans. Light would eventually meet her and decided he could use her to kill Elle would agree to go out with her, ignoring the almighty rule of don't stick your dick in crazy. However, this would actually work out for him in the end, as his stalker had her own pet god of death that would kill Elle for her. Unfortunately for Light, however, Elle had an albino kid or brother or whatever he was, I'm too drunk to remember, and the albino would do what Elle couldn't and would beat Light, revealing him to the detectives he was pretending to work with. Light, being a little bitch deep down, would ask Reed to kill them all for him. However, Reed, being a massive troll, would write Light's name down instead, killing him and fucking off. After his death, Light's stalker would kill himself and cults would form in his name, just like in real life. Hey guys, what up? I'm here to do another match where I'm going to put Lelouch from Code Geass and Lelouch from Death Note head to head to see who I think would win in a fight. So just for the record, I'm only using the anime for both of these two because that's, less work, But before that, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Lich. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the issue with analyzing Lelouch in a physical area is that this dude is a fucking wimp. Like, no joke, I could probably kick Lelouch's ass. Lelouch has been shown multiple times to be winded from running a short distance and really isn't even that fast compared to normal people. His durability ain't that good either, as the pussy can't even survive being stabbed in the chest and even got knocked out several times in the series. For fuck's sake, when I say I could lay out a character, you better not expect to get a showing, so I don't know what you're still doing here. Despite also being a massive fucking nerd, Light knows that it's important to take care of yourself and has kept a good physical fitness, even being a teen athlete at one point. I mean, it was Tenniska, but that's still more than I've ever done, so I'm not gonna talk shit. Light is so strong that he was able to put Elle on his ass with a punch, and the force from this even knocks himself down. He's shown to have a decent amount of speed beating Elle in tennis, despite the former being a British junior champion. To add on to that, Light himself was the champion in junior high as well. His stamina would need to be a bit above normal in order to compete with Elle in terms of tennis, but his durability is kinda normal, as he was almost gunned down by fucking Matsuda. Let me repeat that. The Yamcha of the detective team gunned his ass down. I mean, to be fair, it was a gun, but still. Okay, this is gonna be easy to explain. Unlike that pussy Lelouch, Light is actually in great physical condition for his age, being capable of defending himself. Meanwhile, Lelouch isn't. Pretty simple, edge light. Also, because I really don't want to waste your guys' time with unnecessary comparisons, Lelouch is going to get the edge in both gear and special abilities, as the Death Note's power isn't really going to work in this sort of fight, and the Death Note is a book. Lelouch has a fucking gun and the power to make Light do whatever he wants. Do I really need to go into more detail here? Okay, I'm too drunk to sugarcoat this. Lelouch has literally zero combative experience or training that he could use to defend himself. But even in my drunken state, I cannot exaggerate enough of how much Lelouch is a fucking military genius. Enemy has the home field advantage? No problem, just destroy the very fucking foundation of their city. The only way out is filled with enemies? Just drop the entire building on them. Trapped in a hostile nation where you're about to be buried alive? Incite a nationwide riot to beat the government for you. Some douchebag is reading your mind to counter your every move? Not a fucking problem. Just give yourself amnesia so that you don't know your own plan to beat this fucker. I cannot say this enough. There is no, and I mean no situation Lelouch cannot bullshit his way out of. He may be far from the most effective combatant on his team, but he makes up for that 10 times over with his bullshit overpowered plans. Light is much like Lelouch in the fact that he doesn't have any training to speak of. But at the very least, Light isn't completely getting bodied by other characters, and even held his own against Elle for a short time. But he still has no real idea what to do in a fight, and would get laid out by anyone who actually knows what they're doing. Okay, I think it's obvious that neither of these two are all impressive, with Light being a textbook fucking definition of average. Take any random dipshit off the street and they know how to and they know the exact same stuff Light would. Lelouch is a broken-ass strategist, but he's utterly worthless as a fighter to the point where anything he comes up with is worthless without someone else doing it for him. Do I really need to go deeper with that? This is the April Fool's joke. What did you expect? There is no way in hell Light's losing a fair fight. Do I need to say more? No, I don't. Let's set up this encounter. Let's say that it takes place in the fucking Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. Okay, so both of these fuckers would be strapped in, but immediately Lelouch would use his Geass in order to Light to fucking kill himself. And following orders like a good little simp, Light would jump up to the top of the dome, grab his sword to cut his straps off, and does a fucking swan dive, landing head first and busting his head open like a balloon. Lelouch the Siscon is the winner. Wait, you expected a full fight? Oh, okay, Lelouch may be a wimp, but he's not stupid and knows he's not gonna beat Light. No. Okay, I know what you're all thinking. But Rain, I thought you said there's no way for Light to lose in a fair fight. And that's correct. But what you mouth breathers need to remember is that Lelouch does not play fair and would 100% cheat his ass off to win this fight. And unlike Light, would have the ability to actually do it because his powers are in his eyes, not in some stupid ass book. So it doesn't matter that they take away the rest of his gear. Lelouch would have. Wait, you guys didn't want a fist fight? You guys wanted like a battle of wits and schemes to see who would outplay the other? Nah, this is way better. Okay, now that I'm sober, allow me to explain why there's simply no way to make this fight work. Now, it's obvious that no one actually cares who would win in a fist fight. The allure of these two is seeing their wit and logistical abilities go head to head. And while the truth is that both are incredibly gifted in these areas, they are gifted in completely different ways. Lelouch is a military commander capable of devising genius strategies to take out vastly superior military forces. And Light is a deceptive manipulator capable of infiltrating a group led by a man actively suspicious of him and having that man killed while convincing the others that he was completely innocent. These approaches to dealing with their problems simply aren't comparable. If we're judging these two on their ability to reveal the identities, then Light would come out on top. But if we're judging these two in a direct contest of strategy like a game of chess, Lelouch would win all the time. Now, you may just say that Light would just infiltrate the Black Knights like he did with the Kira Task Force. That's assuming that L and Lelouch would approach their problems in the same way when they simply wouldn't. Replace L with Lelouch, and Light is going to end up either forced to tell the truth, or if he can't get to Light directly, once he was sure it was Light, he'd just end up gunned down by someone under the control of Geass, and Lelouch would call it a day. And that's exactly the same thing that would happen if Lelouch got suspicious of Light if he was working under him as well. But if Light was to infiltrate Lelouch's personal life, say at the start of the series, and play the long game, gaining his trust, Lelouch would probably end up opening up to Light eventually about his past and role as Zero, and so long as Rolo wasn't around to ice his ass afterward, he'd write Lelouch's name down and that would be it. If you want my honest opinion, Lelouch would have a much easier time revealing and dealing with Light thanks to Geass than Light would have with using the Death Note. Also, because I know someone's gonna bring it up if I don't mention it, Misa wouldn't be much help in either scenario, as the first one, Lelouch would still have the Zero masks, yes, masks he wears too, covering his face, and Light would have no proof to turn the Black Knights against him. And the knowledge that he's a prince in the second scenario would probably be more of a problem for Light, seeing as Lelouch being a prince would make it less likely to anyone unfamiliar with Lelouch's past that he'd be Zero. And if he played his hand too early, Light and Misa would just end up getting murdered. Frankly, the way these characters are written simply don't allow for a contest of intelligence in the way we'd like to imagine it, thanks to how radically different their methods are. Which is honestly a shame, as I'd personally love to see these two clash heads, but depending on the situation, one will just have a much bigger advantage over the other. Characters that would be more comparable to these two and their respective intelligences would be the Arkham Knight for Lelouch as military commanders and Izaya Orihara for Light as manipulators. But that's just my thoughts on this, and if you guys could come up with a scenario where these two actually challenge each other intellectually, I'd love to hear about it. But for now, I'm Rain932, and I really just can't think of a way to make this work, so I'll see you guys next time.
Do not struggle, for if you can't even defeat me, and you've already lost.
I will not lose. Not to Dante. I need power. More power.
I know. We are one and the same, you and I. But you've lost me, and I've lost you. Yet we are connected by that one feeling. While thy branches mix with mine, and our roots together join.
What is your plan anyway? What do you hope to accomplish while trapped in your own bedroom?
Vishni, are you all right?